But notice finally here that we conserve gospel ministry. Paul says, apostles didn't give to me any sort of permission to preach the gospel. He said they recognized it, and what they did was they encouraged me, he says in chapter 1 and verse 10, to remember the poor, which he says is the very thing that I was eager to do, to remember those who are without power. If we are going to conserve the gospel for future generations, we must crucify the social Darwinism that so often exists even in our circles, where we see people in terms of their power, in terms of their influence, in terms of their attractiveness, in terms of their usefulness. This is not the way that God sees the world. This is not the sort of kingdom that Jesus is building. When we care about the unborn, when we care about the immigrant, when we care about the prisoner, when we care about the addicted, when we care about the diseased, when we care about the elderly, we are saying these are not people who can do anything for us in the short term. These are people whose dignity we respect and whose dignity we affirm because we do not have a 100-year view of our lives. We have trillions and trillions and trillions of years where the first will be last and the last will be first. Why is it that so many of the people, even in the videos that we show in our local churches, are the people who happen to meet the standards of physical attractiveness that are set on Madison Avenue? Why is it that so many of the people who are leading within our churches are the people who have the kind of power and influence and so-called leadership ability that they would be leading any organization in that place, even if Jesus were still dead? I was eager to remember the poor not as charity projects. The gospel was going to the poor, and the poor, 1 Corinthians 1, were the ones who were driving the gospel forward out of the first century world. If the church is to have a future, and it does, it must be the sort of church that is not only ministering to, but is ministering from trailer parks and housing projects and Latin American slums. The sort of church that recognizes that the child with Down syndrome on the second row that the rest of the world says should have been aborted and should never even exist is not only someone that we tolerate, it's not only someone that we minister to, it is someone we receive ministry from, because he is not a charity project. He is a joint heir with Christ and a future ruler of the universe. We remember the poor and we remember the powerless, the very thing that we should be eager to do because we are conserving the gospel for the future.